I was standing at the counter and everything started just becoming kind of a stop motion, like this sequence of just still frames. And I looked down at the countertop and I reached over and tried to pick up these keys. And I just was fumbling and about 6 inches off, and I thought to myself, something's not right. I looked up and my tongue had felt swollen, and I tried to just mumble out, something's happening to me, and my wife kind of just turned this awful shade of white and just said, get in the car. Of all the things that I would have been worried about at that time in my life, stroke was not even on the radar. I was always a doodler in school and always kind of a creative edge, I guess. You know, I definitely was always thinking outside the box and enjoyed art class. And it's funny, during college, I was a business major, a finance major, and I ended up working, kind of keeping my creative juices going. I was working for a silk screen company in Seattle. And I started just getting into ink and watercolor, and I started kind of creating this relatively unique style. And in '98, I moved back to Colorado, and I just started bringing my stuff all over town and kind of showing anywhere I could in cafes and coffee shops. And I started doing well with it. At that time, 26, 27, the illustration stuff that I was working on really started kind of ramping up too. So I was having a lot of things in motion. And then at 31 was when I had my stroke. It was a venal thrombosis in the sagittal sinus, which is up in this area. And so it was affecting my right side. So I had paralysis through my right side and arm. I couldn't do much with my arm, and I could feel it all the way down to my hip. That night, I was in the neuro ICU and I had a grand mal seizure. I just started like hitting myself uncontrollably, and I pressed the call button and I just yelled at my wife, just like, Allison. I think the harder thing career-wise was just, you don't have a safety net. When you're working for yourself, it's sort of like you don't immediately know where to turn. Initially, I think you're obviously most worried about just surviving the next day, and then, you know, it's sort of like you start to get a bit more of a bigger picture of just saying, what is life going to look like down the road, and am I going to heal immediately? Am I going to be better tomorrow? Am I going to be better in a week, a month? And so it was eye-opening. After another 24, 48 hours, I was released to the regular hospital and ended up there, I think, for 7 or 8 days. I didn't find out until months later that my prognosis was a little bleaker than they let on. They gave me about a 5% chance of ever using my arm again. I think that the hardest part about it is, you know, for the first couple years, it was on the forefront of my mind for every moment of the day. Am I going to have a stroke today? Am I going to have a seizure? Are you worried about driving? Are you worried about having kids and doing, you know, moving on with your life? And it's constant. I think that the journey from there to now there were a lot of steps and phases that you go through. It took me probably 2 years before I was feeling comfortable painting again. And then from there, I guess it was about 2 to 3 years before I painted anything meaningful. And I remember the first painting I was commissioned by a gallery in California that I had been in touch with. I just poured myself into this thing. I just obsessed over it. It was brutal, partly because I think I was overcompensating for what I wanted it to be and how perfect I wanted it to be in the outcome. It was such a statement on getting back. That was the first time that I really had to step into, okay, I can paint again. Space Gallery, I mean, it is a really important step. This show at Space Gallery was by far my biggest show that I've had as an individual show. And so to come kind of full circle and actually be able to show my work in that space was 20 years in the making. Personally, looking back on it, I had had my stroke, we had had 4 kids, and in the matter of about 10 years, and my life was just this giant roller coaster. And I think that it didn't dawn on me until I was painting my second or third roller coaster. It's like, it was literally kind of painting a metaphor of my own life. Reality is, with stroke, there's no 100% to get back to. Your body's different, you're physically different, you're mentally different, you're emotionally different. At some point, you just start putting together the best version of yourself that you can every day and move forward. You know, I'm blessed and grateful for each day I get to paint and each day that I get to play with my kids and throw the baseball and do things that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not kind of had the dedication to try to recover it the way I did.
Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page for these stories and more. And stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver, premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.